Okay. Okay, we're gonna wait on everyone to come in. So we'll start like at 9:05. That way we make sure everyone's good. Waiting on everyone to. Let me turn off that. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we're gonna do a quiz today. Sample one I made using some random questions, and we're gonna go over the answers, what each thing means, and essentially figure what's up with that. So yeah, we're gonna wait a few more minutes for people to come in. Thank you very much. So you might want to skip to like probably the 5-minute mark on this video to hear the quiz questions. Hey, welcome to the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. We are waiting for everyone else to come in. Thank you for the 2 people who just came in. Very happy to have you here. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. So once, welcome. Thank you very much for coming up. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. Cool. For the people who are here, I'm going to be asking 11 questions in a quiz format, and I'm going to be giving you an opportunity to answer them. So I'll give everyone like 20-ish seconds after I read the questions. I'll read it twice, and you should try your best to see if you can get the answer. And let me see, do I have screen capture on here? Let's see. Pop out chat. Okay, cool. Doesn't look like we can screen capture video like in the other one. Pod pouches, toggle time steps. Okay, great. Cool. So 1 more minute and then we'll start. Okay, I hope everyone's ready for tomorrow. Remember, as a reminder, it is on chapter 8 and 9. And make sure to review your notes in class because there's always stuff that Rafai mentions in class that will be pretty important. And I'll be asking some bonus questions as well. So we'll start very soon in like 15 seconds. Cool. Let's see. Okay. Feel free to type in chat what you think your answer is, if you want, or you could just write it down, whatever you prefer. So welcome. We're going to start now. Thank you so much for coming to see this video. We're going to go over chapter 8 and 9 for History 111. So if you're here for Rufai's African American history, African Americans in America, sorry. If you're here for History 114, that's tomorrow. Today is going to be the 111 class, which is History of Americas to 1865. So we'll start off with the first question. Feel free to type it in chat what you think your answer is, or or just write it down. Either way. Cool. So first off, we'll start this. What was the first long-distance rail line launched in the United States? Is it A, Baltimore and Ohio, B, Baltimore and Missouri, C, Boston and Ohio, or D, Boston and Oregon? So again, what was the first long-distance rail line launched in the United States? This is a railroad line. A, Baltimore and Ohio, B, Baltimore and Missouri, C, Boston and Ohio, or D, Boston and Oregon? So I'll let you guys figure that out. Great. So the answer for that one was A, Baltimore and Ohio. A big thing is that this rail line was created in 1827, and yeah, BO, yeah, that's right. But it's BO, Baltimore and Ohio. Thank you very much, Kevin. So that's a very important one, and it's also important to know the year because it's 1827, because it is going to be, I believe, under Madison or Monroe. One of the presidents makes it a very big deal that they're going to invest in railroads and technology. So the very first person to do that, give me 1 second as I look for it, chapter 7. It's near the end of the chapter. Yeah, Monroe advocated for a strong military and aggressive foreign policy, and he authorized the federal government to invest in canals and roads. And it's very important because James Monroe presidency. His presidency from go with 1817 to 1825, and he set up the groundwork for what would happen to a lot of these railroad stations expanding out. So it was very much Monroe's work that made things like these railroads happening. John Quincy Adams technically comes from 1824 to 1828. Yes, and it is on page 7. The source is page 7. Thank you very much. Chapter 8, that's going to be chapter 8, page 7. Cool. 2. We're going to do another question now. What were the 2 revolutions that composed the American Industrial Revolution? Again, the question is, what were the 2 revolutions that composed the American Industrial Revolution? Was it A, the Technological Revolution and Labor Revolution, B, Commercial Revolution and Market Revolution, C, Commercial Revolution and Technological Revolution, or D, Technological Revolution and Transportation Revolution? I'm going to say it again, but not use all the words. So was it A, Technology and Labor, B, Commercial and Market, C, Commercial and Technology, or D, Technology and Transportation? And you can just say the 2 if you don't remember the letter. Once again, I'm going to say the question. Tech and labor. Actually, I can put these in chat too. What am I doing? Aha, it saves us a lot more time if I do that. Here you go, guys. I'm going to put these in chat. Let's see. I got a D right there. We're going to wait one more time. Okay, that's too many. Yeah, it's kind of hard to put those in there. The answer is gonna be C, the Commercial and Technological Revolution. The source is the Annenberg Rise of Capitalism, which you can see around the 6-minute mark. Essentially, the Commercial Revolution, allowed for a big sense of individualism and constant spreading of capital investments. This is really the type of mindset, the idea that you can invest and grow outward, and essentially that the markets are connected. The technological revolution was obviously the based on, you get the railroads, the steel mills, but the really important thing is the technological revolution starts the division of labor. So commercial revolution is the sense of individualism. Let me read it right here. It's actually right here. Let me read it. Revolution. I'm going to read the paragraph. At the turn of the 19th century, America began to change almost in accordance with Smith's ideas, Adam Smith. What was commonly called the American Industrial Revolution was actually two converging revolutions: a technological revolution based on the division of labor, and a commercial revolution empowered by a deep faith in economic individualism and unrestrained competition. So that's the source of it. The market revolution is a fancy word for, it's kind of also the same as commercial revolution, sort of, but so don't get confused on it. I'm trying to get you with revised stuff. So yeah, that's that one. Cool. Number 3, Thomas Jefferson tried an agrarian industrial project with which individual? Was it A, Cyrus McCormick, B, Samuel Slater, C, Cabot Lowell, or D, Sarah Bagley? And I'm going to put these in the chat real quick. So yeah, for some reason it puts them all together. So it's McCormick, Cyrus McCormick, Samuel Slater, Cabot Lowell, or Sarah Bagley. The question was, Thomas Jefferson tried an agrarian industrial project with which individual? Okay, I'm going to wait for other people to answer. Give it 20 more seconds. Okay, 5, 4. Okay, and as we're winding down, the correct answer was B, Samuel Slater. So Samuel Slater was one of the first persons to work on the mills. He was the first espionager who stole the idea of the mills from Britain. Remember, he was the one that disguised himself as a farmer because the educated people could not transport themselves from England to America. It was considered a crime. So who was Cyrus McCormick? Cyrus McCormick was the guy who invented the farm reaping technology that would revolutionize how farming worked. Let me see, that page is going to be right here. Cyrus McCormick's horse-drawn mechanical reaper was the most famous of the inventions that helped with harvesting. Cabot Lowell was the guy who did the Lowell mills, who would try to do these Lowell mills in the urban environments. He's the guy who made the Lowell mill in Massachusetts, which had all these ladies and stuff. Eventually, he was the guy who pretty much was like the father of the sort of assembly line style. And essentially, he was really big when steam power hit. So remember, a Lowell comes after Samuel Slater. And D, if you're confused to who that, Sarah Bagley was the, give me a second, she was the leader of, this is chapter 8. This is chapter 8, yeah. She was the leader of the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association, which organized petitions that drew thousands of signatures from the mill girls. So these are the mill girls in Lowell. So she was the leader of that. So all of these are people you should probably know. So I try to put answers there. Great. So let's go to the next one. Okay. 4. How did middle-class workers justify their economic privilege? A, the working class were immigrants and poor families, so they were destined to be poor. B, they saw their actions as slowly helping the poor through the invisible hand. C, they were able to work up from poverty to the positions they were at. D, they saw themselves as having superior character traits in decisions and hard work. Again, how did middle-class workers justify their economic privilege? A, the working class were immigrants and poor families, so they were destined to be poor. B, they saw their actions as slowly helping the poor through the invisible hand. C, they were able to work up from poverty to the positions they were at. D, they saw themselves as having superior character traits in decisions and hard work. Okay. Yes. How did the middle class workers justify their economic privilege? A, the working class were immigrants and poor families, so they were destined to be poor. B, they saw their actions as slowly helping the poor through the invisible hand. C, they were able to work from poverty to the positions they were at. Or D, they saw themselves as having superior character traits in decisions and hard work. Thanks. You need to show me. You need to show my feet. That'll be in the bonus episode. The answer is D. They saw themselves as having superior character traits in decisions and hard work. This is on page 16 of chapter 8. Page 16, chapter 8. So a lot of these people saw themselves as like they were in those positions. They were in those positions to make sure that they were in those positions because they worked hard. They were big decision makers. Here's a little bonus tip. Abraham Lincoln was a big supporter of this. Here's a little, it's paramount. I appreciate it, Fusion. Abraham Lincoln was really in support of this type of labor because he believed that is what made America more morally superior than the South. So let me see if I can find the quote that it was about. Come on, where are you? Slave labor. Abraham Lincoln said this quote. You know what, guys? I'm going to get back to you on that one because I'm having a hard time. Yes, found it. So in an 1856 speech in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Abraham Lincoln had to assure audience the country's commercial transportation had not reduced America's labors to slavery. He said that this year there's no such class. The man who labored for another last year, this year labors for himself, and next year he will be others to labor for him. This is essentially the idea to. Hey Fusion, watch out. I'm trying to have let's try to be a little more serious with the study thing, because that way the chat doesn't get spammed out. So make sure that you pay attention by looking at that. We don't want to spam chat, so thank you very much. Okay, great. So that's a little hint right there. Abraham Lincoln, that was in 1856. Okay, if you were a wealthy man, this is a question. If you were a wealthy man, your wife was expected to A, work hard for you and your family. B, to do as little work as possible. C, to be well behaved and not talk back. Or D, to be highly educated and entrepreneurial. Number 5, if you were a wealthy man, your wife was expected to work hard for you and your family. B, to do as little work as possible. C, to be well behaved and to not talk back. D, to be highly educated and entrepreneurial. Okay, so that's nice. I can see that. Yeah, actually, let me put user in timeout. Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry guys for that. Okay, so yes, it is B, to do as little work as possible. The more work your wife did, the more lower class you would seem. If your wife was considered to not do any work and was essentially do not have to touch anything, you were seen as a wealthy man. Another thing, though, is a little point. Okay, so if anyone knows, here's a little bonus question. Okay, was the domestic... Okay. What was masculine? The domestic sphere or the public sphere? So if you think domestic sphere, just write domestic. And if you think public sphere, you write public. So domestic or public, which one is the masculine sphere? What is the masculine sphere? Domestic or public? Okay. Here's a harder one. Okay. What decided if work was masculine? Was it A, ability to okay, I'm making this one up. What separated labor from being domestic or public? There's one key factor. Does anyone know that factor? I would give a list, but it's kind of hard to think on the clock. So a man and a woman could do the same task, but there was something different. And if they didn't get this, it separated into domestic or public. And I'll write it down in the chat right now. So the idea, if labor is connected to wealth, that was seen more as sometimes a public sphere thing, because a woman working in a home on her shirts, doing textile work for her husband and family, that's considered very domestic. But if a man goes out and he's working, an immigrant man working on a textile, making shirts, he's being paid for it. But that's not considered domestic. The fact is that he's being paid for this labor. So that was considered a almost a public thing. So compensation was a key to decide whether if a labor was domestic or public. Were you properly compensated? And we get this idea of bringing home the bacon from that idea. Okay. Okay, so let's go, and that's in chapter 8. What was the population of the U.S. in 1801? A, 5 million, B, 6 million, C, 5.5 million, or D, 4.5 million? What was the population of the U.S. in 1801? A, 5 million, B, 6 million, C, 5.5 million, D, 4.5 million. I'll say one more time. Population of the U.S. in 1801. A, 5 million, B, 6 million, C, 5.5 million, or D, 4.5 million. We're going to give it 10 more seconds and we're moving on. 1801, 1801. 5 million. A is 5 million. B is 6 million. C is 5.5 million, and D is 4.5 million. I'm going to see if I can start copying and pasting these two into the chat. The answer is A, 5 million. So look at your notes from the video lecture. This is going to be in the Annenberg video series. It's very early on. It's A, 5.5. It's A, 5 million. If you're interested, let me see if I can find it. The population explodes in 1901. In 1901, the population explodes to 77 million. So 5 million in 1801 to 77 million in 1901. So this is a humongous jump. So if just in case if I ask now, you know, there's a big jump. Oh man, gonna remove this guy. Remove hide user on this channel. Okay, I don't know who that guy was, but let's keep going. So what did answer number 6, question 7? What did Dartmouth versus Woodward establish? What did Dartmouth versus Woodward establish? And I'm going to put the answer choices. This is a court case in 1819. What did Dartmouth versus Woodward establish? Okay, let me do it here. So here's your answer choices. Oh my God, I can't do it. There you go. So did it A, limit the number of private corporate investments in northern states? B, allowed for state chartered banks to replace the national bank? C, allowed Jackson to remove natives from the Ohio region? Or D, upheld the rights of private corporations? So your answer choices are in the chat. A, limited the number of private corporation investments in northern states. B, allow for state-chartered banks to replace the national bank. C, allowed Jackson to remove natives from the Ohio region. Or D, upheld the rights of the private corporations. This is a court case in 1890. 1819. Write that down too. And I'll write down the court case name too. Dartmouth versus Woodward, court case 1819. Yeah, you're all going to get the questions on a Google Doc at the end of the video as well, so I'll put the questions down. So at the end, please stick around, and we'll see that. Honestly, you know what? I'm going to be smart about this. I haven't actually put the right answers on here, so I'm also going to just give you the share link so we can all read it together. So I just realized that would have been smart. Sorry about that, guys. I should have probably done that way before. Let me give you all a link. This link, if you follow it, you can view it. I'm going to make it so you can comment on it. So that way, if you want to add a question, you can do that. Actually, you can add it. Just be very careful. This is an edit link, so you can easily destroy it. So please be careful when you grab this. Here you go, everyone. It's an ugly link, but if you click on it, you'll be able to look at the questions. We're on number 8 right now, so if you click on the link, you can see number 8. Number 8, who was the person who proposed the Missouri Compromise? Was it A, John C. Calhoun, B, Henry Clay, C, James Talmadge, or D, Andrew Jackson? This is question number 8 in the document. Who was the person who proposed the Missouri Compromise? John C. Calhoun, Henry Clay, James Talmadge, or Andrew Jackson? Yeah, I forgot to say the letters. A, John C. Calhoun, B, Henry Clay, C, James Talmadge, and D, Andrew Jackson. Cool. So I'm going to give you all 10 more seconds, and we're going to move on to the next question. The person who proposed the Missouri Compromise was B, Henry Clay, also known as the Great Compromiser. He was very big in that he was able to get something put forward because James Talmadge wanted to make Missouri a slave state, but he was going to say that there would be a bunch of rules where they couldn't import any slaves, and they were not going to, and they were going to free slaves after that. But yes, that was pretty much it. Cool. Okay, so feel free to make a copy of the document as well. You can easily do that by going to File, Make Copy, and you'll save a copy. Cool, so we're going to move on to the next one. Speculation in what commodity or commodities led to the Panic of 1837. So this is number 9 now. Just in case you can't see the document, I'll put it right here. Let me put this. I'm going to write down here as well. And okay, cool. Now we're ready. Speculation in what commodities led to the Panic of 1837? A, land and banks. B, land and slaves. C, land and bonds. Or D, land and textiles. Just as a reference, question number 8, the source of that is like page 3. Let me see why you're thinking of that. Keep going. I'm going to write the sources on that last question. I just really didn't do that. Where are you? Too many things. Page 4 and 5, source. Yeah. Okay, we're going to give it 10 more seconds. And the answer is B, land and slaves. So you can find that in chapter 8, page 2, I believe. Let me check. So essentially, the big speculation in land, because you might remember, is that a lot of, I think it was Andrew Jackson, who 1828, a lot of land, Andrew Jackson wanted a bunch of land to be bought only with gold and silver. He said that he made the banks only have to do that. So all the gold and silver was taken out of the northern banks to buy all this new land in the west. So it drained all the banks of their gold and silver. And people realized this, so they kept exchanging their bills to get their gold back because they're like, this money is going to be useless. And at one point, the bank said, we're not going to give any more gold and silver. Screw that. We're not going to respect your notes. It caused a humongous panic. It's kind of like a stock market crash, essentially, because they wouldn't want to give that gold and silver. So essentially, the Panic of 1837 was also started by the Bank War of 1812. Was it Bank War? That wasn't Bank War of 1812. Sorry, two different things. Scratch that. It was caused by the Bank War under Andrew Jackson, who wanted to kill the national bank and make more state chartered banks. But the problem is, so many state chartered banks were just giving out money like crazy. Like, hey, have some cash. They didn't really care if they have the gold and silver to back it up. They were just whatever. Great. So let's go to the next one. Only two more left. In 1830, the budget of the federal government was A, 20 million, B, 25 million, C, 30 million, or D, 35 million. So I'll write those answers in there for you as well. The budget of the United States federal government in 1830 was A, 20 million, B, 25 million, C, 30 million, or D, 35 million. This is important because Rufai keeps mentioning it all the time because he uses this as an example to why the slave owners were way more powerful than anything in the federal government. So you have A, 20 million, B, 25 million, C, 30 million, D, 35 million. Cool. So we're gonna give everyone 10 more seconds and end it off. So the answer was B, 25 million. This number is important because in the federal government, the 1830s, the federal government only had $25 million, where slave owners and their slaves were valued at $1 billion. And this is important because if it's valued at $1 billion, it shows the power. In capitalist America, money means power. So a lot of these states and governments are not going to mess with these private slave owners who have this massive amount of money. It's insane. So it shows you where the power is centered and concentrated. Okay, cool. 11. We'll finish off with this for the question segment, and then you can ask me questions. I know we're going over our 30-minute mark that we usually do, but hopefully it's helpful for everyone. 11. What was the nativist movement? A, natives organizing for more representation after the Trail of Tears. B, a call to see all Americans as native to the country, not just Native Americans. C, the push to send blacks back to their native land. Or D, people limiting European immigration and Catholic influence. Let me put that on the chat as well. This is question 11. So once again, what was the nativist movement? A, natives organizing for more representation after the Trail of Tears. B, a call to see all Americans as native to the country, not just Native Americans. C, the push to send blacks back to their native land. Or D, people limiting European immigration and Catholic influence. Okay, feel free to type the answers in chat as you'd like. I'll be highlighting the answers at the end of this chat too, so when you look at it, you know it's good. Cool. Take some water. Okay, we're going to get to the answers now. So the answer to our final question, what was the nativist movement? The answer was, it's D, people limiting European immigration and Catholic influence. A lot of these nativist movements didn't like the changing America. It's not looking very British. It's not looking very Protestant or whatnot. It's looking very Catholic now. It has a lot of Irish immigrants. It has a lot of Jewish people coming in. Has a lot of different demographics coming, Irish, Scots, Jewish people. It's crazy. So the nativist movements are essentially these people who don't want to be doing all this stuff. So yeah, that concludes our question segment. So I did it a little differently this time because I think that usually just saying a bunch of stuff is not always the best approach, just steamrolling it. So I'm hoping this was a little different and hopefully brought you an idea to like, okay, I need to know this. What do I know? I try to expand and cover all the reading. Oh yes, that's page 26. I'm very sorry. I'm doing terrible idea of sourcing these. Yeah, source of that is page 26 on chapter 9, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, 26. Page 26, chapter 9. The budget one was honestly in class. This is revised in class. The commodity question, that's gonna be, let me see, that one's gonna be chapter 8, page 4. Some of these pages are not gonna always line up because we sometimes have different stuff. What did World? This is chapter 8. Chapter 8. It's page 9, I believe. Page 9, I think, is the Woodward case. Check real quick. Yep, that's page 9, baby. So I think all of them are sourced. The wealthy wife, wealthy man. I forgot what page it's on, but it's pretty much there. No problem. Kevin, no worries. I'm gonna highlight the answers soon in the document. So feel free to look at the document that I sent so you can look at what that was. And of course, if you want, you can always rewatch the video. Obviously, it won't be live, but it will let you do that. It will let you be able to do that. So we're gonna switch off for like 5 to 10 more minutes on things that y'all want to hear about. So please send in chat anything that you would like to know more about or things that you would want me to discuss more. Pretty much what you want. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Cool. So I'm going to end off by, if we don't have too much things going on, we're going to end off by going through some of the different notes that may have not been on the the readings because it's always important. Remember that Nicholas Biddle was the bank director of the National Bank, and he saw Nicholas Biddle as like one of his sworn enemies, Andrew Jackson. Yeah, there was a lot of things on the video from Monday. There's a lot of things. I have I have my notes from there as well. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, the video. A lot of my questions actually came from that video. The Samuel Slater, that experiment was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And this is where he disguised himself as a farmer. So that was a very big one. And remember, it was around 1789 when Samuel Slater was doing all this nonsense. It was in the 80s and 90s of the 1700s. Jefferson was worried with manufacturing because of the idea of Manchester, because it was in 1830 something. I forget the year, but Tocqueville made a quote. This is Alexis de Tocqueville made that quote about how man is turned back into a savage. He said this in the 1830s about Manchester. I can probably find it right now. I'm on the page. Tocqueville. It doesn't say the year he said it, but it was on a visit Manchester. He said that. So if they ask who Alexander de Tocqueville here, he was a French writer visiting through Europe. So remember that. The Lowell, Massachusetts, that experiments in the 1820s to give you an idea. So you have Slater in 1789 to 1790s. The Lowells in the 1820s began as a bunch of young unmarried women, and they were considered to be women of virtue because as well. But they were still considered sort of second-class citizens because they can't vote and stuff. And there was people who would make their own newspapers as well. So there was like a union newspaper in these Massachusetts, and with the lady Sarah Bagley, the girl who I said near the beginning, she's in the thing. She's very big too. The thing is that with the introduction of steam and coal power, it killed the women factories these all women factories of virtue, the ones where they had the camps and were taken care of. And they were replaced because they all left because of terrible working conditions and bad pay. But the people who stayed were the Irish immigrant women who replaced them because they were too poor to leave. So you get these immigrants who are now just too poor to be there. The market revolution is the market revolution very much is the roads, canals, railways, like stuff from Chicago to New York, and essentially these big things happening. So in 1930, New York City was very different. It had a big city with water ports and aggressive merchants. In 1825, you get the Erie Canal, which was heads from Albany to Hudson River. I think it stretches into the Great Lakes as well. Albany to the Hudson River would connect Great Lakes to Chicago with merchant fleet. In 1830, Chicago was a fur trading post. Jacob Astor was the biggest man there, and essentially, because of the glaciers that melted, there was something called the Mohawk Pass, who made it easier to get from New York City to Chicago, and they very much use that as a way to get to their canals. Let's see. Okay, candidates married to women names. So in the Chicago River to the Illinois River, there was also a trade route from Chicago River to Illinois River all the way to the New Orleans River. And a lot of people who lived there in Chicago were mostly French candidates married to women natives before. So I guess these are still some of the French people who live there, even though the French don't have control, that they still are able to be there. So the big problem was that Chicago was one of the fastest growing cities and was a central masterpiece to essentially the railroad hub. Chicago was the railroad hub. No other railroads did as many as that. I know Rufai had a year for us where it said that the railroads exploded. So some popular people there were because a lot of people invested money into them. Gordon Salston also have American Colonization, Liberia, The Liberator magazine, William Lloyd Garrett, Annabelle America on page 28, chapter 10. Yes. The American Colonization Society is still pretty important. That is chapter 10, though. We're only supposed to know chapter 8 and 9 according to him. So the notes that we got from last lecture technically are not supposed to be there, but I would still remember the Liberia one because it has been mentioned before. But you do not need to know too much about William Lloyd Garrison and chapter 10 stuff, just because we're not supposed to be getting quizzed on chapter 10. You know, he sometimes doesn't always respect that, but generally that's the fact. So the last lecture, chapter 10 stuff that he didn't talk too much. The last lecture we had wasn't that Monday's lecture was not that big on the test, so I think we're fine. Everything is good for the quiz. Everything is fair game, but Monday's lecture yesterday was mostly chapter 10 stuff. So don't worry too much about the lecture notes you made yesterday. Everything else, though, is fair game. So, because chapter 8 and 9 involves the video, too. So, yeah. So, last week notes, except for the video from last week. The video from last week, the only one we saw was, yeah, it's just not Monday. That's my answer for you. Just not Monday's lecture. Everything else is fine. Sorry about that. So, a big thing is that Gordon Salston Hubbard was the richest man in Chicago, and he would invest a lot of stuff. And this is the same with William and Ogden William Butler, who was the first mayor of Chicago. William Ogden Butler, something like that. Ogden William Butler, something like that. And then Gordon Salston Hubbard was the richest man in Chicago. So Hubbard, and I think his name is Ogden. Hubbard and Ogden, because the streets are named after that. Cool. We're gonna end soonish because it's been like 47 minutes, and I want people to not get like extremely scared about this. Those are the big things from the videos. Keep reading. Best of luck. They do some stuff on the Second Great Awakening. Votes for women. Votes for women. Oh, I will say though, the stuff on women. The votes for women, that gets spoken a little bit in chapter 8, so just quickly review that. There's like a little section on women's votes. That might be something that might be important because he does like mentioning anything related to women and to these different minority groups. So yeah, but I think that's about it. We should be fine after that. Make sure you know your compromises. Remember that the Fugitive Slave Act, the little articles. Article 1, Section 9 is the one that says you can't interfere with the slave trade and stuff. Missouri Compromise is 1820. Then you have the nullification crisis. Oh, I'm going to mention that real quick. So the nullification crisis was big because it essentially was the first time they threatened to split the Union apart, which was scary for everyone. And the nullification crisis is on page... Sorry about that. It's way early on. It's like page 6 or something. Rise of Extra Jackson. Could have sworn there was some. Oh, it's on page 9, by the way. Sorry for that last one. The nullification crisis was caused by John C. Calhoun, who crafted the South Carolina Exposition and Protest. He was saying that since the states had created the Union, he reasoned they were still sovereign, so a state could nullify a federal statute it considered unconstitutional. And he did this against the Tariff of Abominations of 1828 because he thought they were essentially taxes that were making it more expensive for the South. So essentially the North would put these tariffs on goods from Europe. Let's see. Sorry, it's right here. Northern manufacturing interest. This import tax provided protection for northern manufacturing interests by raising the price of European products in America. Southerners, however, blamed the tariff for a massive transfer of wealth. It forced them to purchase goods from the North's manufacturers at higher prices, and it provoked European countries to retaliate with high tariffs of their own, reducing foreign purchases of the South raw materials. The whole idea is the North wants the South to buy more from them. Don't buy from Europe, buy from us, the North. The tariff is 1828, and the South Carolina Exposition and Protest by John C. Calhoun, also in 1828. And things get a little wild. The nullification crisis was avoided because Henry Clay was able to broker a solution with Calhoun. And Henry Clay was also the guy who did the Great Compromise of Missouri, so in 1820, and now he solved the nullification crisis. So that's why he's called the Great Compromiser. Okay, we're at the 50-minute mark. We're definitely a little over. Thank you so much for everyone being here. Hopefully this was good for you. I'm going to highlight the answers in the document. So y'all have a good night. Best of luck with the quiz. Yes, the video link is the video link from the questions tonight on Bryson. I need to go soon. The questions I made are ones I made myself. These were not questions that I got from Brightspace. Let's see. Yeah, I need to go soon. Is the video link from the questions? Oh, the video link. Oh, I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, it's on Brightspace. Let me just send it to you for Rise of Capitalism. Yeah, it's right here. The Rise of Capitalism. Yeah, here's the link, bro. Just click on that and it'll take you straight to the video. And once again, the document is here, whoever needs it. I'm going to repost it again. That's the document you were just looking at. I'm going to correct it. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Best of luck. Read all your notes. Don't get good sleep. That's the best way to study. But yeah, see you all night and see you either next week or the week after that. We'll see what's up. See ya.